What Buster always knew as the experienced horse trainer he is, and what I never listened to as the novice jockey I am, is the simple fact that my filly, Rigid Mind, has a limited number of runs in her. Perhaps it was a detail the horse middleman Rascal Beaumont had stated when he sold her to me, and I just failed to pay heed. But the fact is that with each passing race, Rigid Mind was spending her credits, and now, looking back on it, there were a dozen warnings from Buster that we need to pace her over the course of the season and carefully pick where and when we'd strike. But I had been blinded by our early success and manipulated by Hilary Getty into entering a fool's rivalry, where by winning a series of battles which in the moment felt monumental, I had actually lost the war, as Rigid Mind was spent for the season, and as Buster so eloquently put it,
"The horse can't run!"
And now Buster has left the barn, refusing to train for a stubborn fool like me, and he's disappeared into some unknown corner of the globe. So here I was, alone with a filly that had been run lame, and a bit over 13 G's left in my pocket, less than half of what I started with. With a third of the racing season left to run, what could I do? I need good luck and a young colt to salvage my dream, and there's one man who can get me what I need. Rascal Beaumont is the finest horse middleman this side of the Great Divide, and I'll need his expertise to pull off a miracle. You see, the last time I visited Rascal, I had a thick bankroll and the luxury of demanding only his finest stock. This time I'm relegated to the run of the mills, but I'm not complaining. You see, the great thing about buying a racehorse is money spent does not guarantee performance. It is not unheard of that a cheap, overlooked colt that only costs a pittance evolves into a great champion, dashing all expectations. With my limited bankroll, I'll be limited in what I can afford, so I'll need Rascal to shine for me today, and my confidence swells in him as he exclaims,
"Well, I'll trot out what I've got in your price range. We'll go from there."
With that, Rascal trots out all I can afford, a parade of one lone colt. Not much of a selection, so it'll be easy to choose, Rascal assures me. Frugal Power is the horse's moniker, and Beaumont says it's apt. You won't get much from him till the end of the race, and when he does give it to you, it'll be less than ample, he advises me. This is the best I can hope for, as Frugal Power's running style is most similar to Rigid Mind's, which I'll have to rely on since the colt won't have the benefit of Buster's training regimen. But even with his less than stellar assessment from Rascal, the colt will still cost me over 10 grand, putting me down to my last pennies for the remainder of the season. All of my apples will now be in one lone basket named Frugal Power. We retire to Rascal's side yard to complete the paperwork over several glasses of sweet tea. After completing the purchase and then slugging down yet another 32 ounces at Rascal's insistence, I decide to ask him a very important question before I leave. You see, when I had asked my trainer, Buster, to reveal his dark past with equestrian king Hilary Getty, he stated that he used to be a trainer for Getty, one member in a group of elite horsemen. Within that group, Buster mentioned the name of Rascal Beaumont. And so, beneath the gently swaying strands of his willow tree and before the smoothly dancing strings of his locks, I put the question to Rascal. What did he know about the events of that fateful card game which fractured their alliance and poisoned reconciliation? Rascal smiles, takes a long, measured pull on his sweet tea, then states,
"Friend, it was a long time ago and the world away. Right now, I just try to mind my own business, sip on some sweet tea. I might suggest you do the same."
To my surprise, I am actually able to get some decent sleep for the first time in a while, with the Phantom failing to show up for his night terror routine. I arrive in Boston on a mostly sunny day with my new colt, Frugal Power. Without having the familiar company of Buster by my side, I'm not able to do our usual game planning on the way to the track. And so, when the gate blows open and Frugal Power bolts across the fresh turf, I have the sense that I'm taking a new car on a test drive during the Daytona 500. Following the only instincts I have, I let Frugal Power settle into his pace just behind the leaders, and as we cruise into the turn, we maintain our speed in the middle of the pack. Is this the proper strategy, I wonder? Who knows? I can evaluate the horse from a gambler's perspective, but haven't developed the skill to judge the creature with a trainer's eye. And so I'm left hoping this locomotive of muscle has a similar late race burst of speed in him, much like Rigid Mind had. As we rumble down the backstretch, Frugal Power seems to have staying power as he maintains his position right in the middle, all while seeming to run a slow pace. We enter the final turn and I feel a bump on our left, then a bump on our right side. We're bounced back and forth between horses, the phantom jockey flashing through my mind with each rattling blow. As we come out of the turn into the home stretch, we've all but lost our place in the pack. It seems I've just learned the hard way that Frugal Power has bump, but no grind. That and his condition seems to be shot to hell. Apparently the curse of the phantom jockey is here to stay. Nevertheless, the finish line bears down on us like a bullet train, so I call on him with all I've got. To my surprise, he responds. We race forward, the leaders are just ahead of us, but we are too late, crossing the finish line, leaving a trail of exploded blades of grass in our wake. As I look to the photo finish replay, I see a line of horses all cross in the same moment, and after the judges sort things out, we're given 6th place. It had felt like we were in contention, until they put it that way. It isn't long after I lose the race, I'm pacing near some loading barns when everything starts to hit me at once. Buster, my friend, the only one I could trust and the only one who was crackerjack at training horses, had left, leaving nary a trail to his quantum of solace. I've only got a little bit of money to scrape by for the rest of the season, and before you know it, I'm making a decision. There's no way I'm training up this colt on my own, especially with the phantom haunting me. So until I can find Buster or lift this curse, I've got to start hedging my bets. As a horse owner, I can't just mosey into the bowels of the grandstands, meld with the dregs, and start placing wagers. I can't kick rocks with the gamblers and not expect to get tarred with the same stick. And the last thing I'd need is Pen Bowie collecting data to put me up on corruption charges. So, I arrange to meet Fortuitous Creek near some fanciful topiary, and I tell him I need him to place some wagers on my behalf.
Nice to have you back in the game, my man! What do you say you and me go in on some 10-cent pick sixes, you young skunk?
Creek exclaims with excitement. I then set out a series of wagers in conjunction with Creek, but also of my own accord. I bet for and I bet against myself in the next race I'll run in. And so, if I can manage to win, I'll double up on my profits.
That way, if you lose, you can still afford a can of tuna.
Fortuitous Creek reassures me. I arrive in the Bay Area for the Grade 2 stakes with visions of a prize far greater than a can of sour tuna. I seek a whole trophy, packed to the gills and overflowing with savory tuna. Since this is a turf race, like our last race, and 8 furlongs in length, only a furlong quicker than our last race, my game plan is to hold steady with the pack, then activate his burst of speed immediately out of the final turn to snatch our win. But when they pack us into the starting gates, the sky cracks open with thunder, releasing icy cold needles of water. I look up to the storm-ridden sky and see the phantom specter hiding in the clouds. Before I can take a deep breath, the gates ring open and Frugal Power tears across the wet turf. Dozens of hooves mush and splatter across the soggy grass, and I can feel Frugal Power lose footing intermittently as we trample along. The high level of competition is clear in this Grade 2 race as most of the pack slowly idles past us, leaving us in last place by the time we enter the turn. I close my eyes to avoid the stinging droplets, but the phantom jockey appears in the darkness, forcing me to open my lids through the watery cascade. Trying to maneuver into a favorable position, we struggle around the turn, trailing the pack, and my game plan sinks into a watery grave as we exit the turn running a too fast pace, yet hardly keeping up with the other racers. I see the 2 furlong marker speed past my stinging vision, and I lean forward into the sharp downpour, facing the haunting specter. I call on the colt to release his reserves, and he responds, accelerating fast towards the group. I lean left and he cuts inside, passing horses and bearing down on the leader of the pack. I call out to him through the knives of watery spray, and he's swapping frugality for generosity as he speeds faster and faster, but it's not enough. Again, it's not enough. As we slow to a trot, I close my eyes again, and the phantom has disappeared. He's left me behind, with a sopping wet colt and a soggy spirit to boot. After trotting him into the sheds, I pat him on the neck and reassure him, we'll get him next time. And then, lo and behold, as it turns out, Creek was right. With the small pittance from our winning wagers, we can still afford a couple cans of tuna. And so, as the sun sets, we retire to an alley behind the track and celebrate our small victory. It is at this most unexpected moment when a powerful revelation is made. I offhandedly remark that if the colt could see the phantom I saw during the races, then it'd scare him right into contention. Creek is immediately startled and asks how long I've been seeing the specter.
Well, I guess it must have been since I lost to Getty.
I say. That's it, Creek exclaims. He now knows why I'm on a losing streak. I've been cursed by Getty's ghost, the phantom jockey. He then goes on to tell me the strange tale of a man named Hampton Motley, a horseman. A horseman and the wealthy heir to a grout tycoon and one of the finest riders he had ever seen. Hampton was hired by Hilary Getty to be part of an elite group of horsemen and ride exclusively for him. Together they won many races. Then, one fateful evening during a card game, the stakes rose high, then to unreasonable heights. They circled each other, horns locked together like territorial mountain goats. When the cards dropped and the chips ran dry, Getty had won, a most valuable of pots. You see, Creek explains to me, that in order for Motley to keep up with Getty's bankroll, he had to wager the last and most valuable thing he possessed, his living soul. And so, when Getty unfurled his fateful 4 kings to Motley's 4 queens, the room grew quiet and most left in disgust before the debt was collected.
So, how was the debt collected?
I ask.
So the way I heard it, Getty conducted some sort of dark ritual with his buddy, the Oracle, who's a soul mage who lives up the coast.
They separated the soul from the body. The soul was taken with the Oracle to a cave near the shoreline on the northern coast, and the body, without a soul, simply wandered away to a motel near the Del Mar racetrack. It is said that Getty wields power over the Oracle, and when he bids it, the Oracle sends out the phantom jockey to carry out Getty's dark deeds.
I'm betting Getty wasn't too keen on you beating him twice, so he summoned his dark minion upon you.
But how could he have cast it upon me? Could he have tainted peppercorns with dark energy, I ask, while growing increasingly paranoid?
Not peppercorns, but a totem of some sort. It works like voodoo. It'd have to be placed on an object that you keep near you. Now think back right now. Is there any time Getty ever gave you a gift? Foot pillow? Potpourri turtle? Anything. Anything you'd keep on you in your most personal space.
And with that, the previously nebulous web came into sharp focus. Over this seemingly innocent can of tuna and banter between gamblers, all the dots became connected in my mind simultaneously, and I knew there was only one thing for me to do. Later that evening, I set out on Highway 1, northbound along the coast. Little did I know that 30 miles south, in a backyard in Arcadia, my compatriot and fellow gambler Fortuitous Creek was about to gain an edge for the last time.